Okay, well, listen, I want to first of all talk about something, and some of you guys will know this and some of you won't, but even if you've heard it before, you need to hear it again because every time I talk about it, I get reminded how important it is. Here's the deal, we've all been taught the wrong way. I'm not kidding, we've been taught photography the wrong way. And it is too bad, and it's confused a lot of people because usually the way you're taught is somebody hands you a camera or somehow you get a hold of a camera like this beauty here. And the first thing is like, learn this camera. Now, this is actually a fairly easy camera to learn because it's only got 3 controls. This is a film camera, it's a Hasselblad, and all you've got is focus, shutter speed, and aperture. 3 controls, pretty easy. However, modern cameras have a million controls. How many menus are there and how many different things do you have to figure out? So when we hand somebody a camera and say, this is how to learn photography, we're starting on the second floor. Now, it's not really that easy to enter a building from the second floor, is it? Have you tried that recently? I mean, I used to rock climb, so we might be able to make it into a rock climbing adventure and somehow scaling the side. But that's not the normal way you enter a building. You should enter from the ground floor, and it's a lot easier. And again, a lot of people get confused because they're being told the wrong thing to start with. The right way to learn photography and to continue to expand is to follow the roadmap that I basically uncovered, which starts off not with the camera, but starts off with the most important thing, which is your vision. You are much more important than a camera. You're the one that points the camera, that determines what shutter speed, what camera, what lens, where you want to stand. All those things are determined by you and your vision. So remember, that's the most important step. Now, it doesn't mean you stay there, but it's the starting point. And remember, you have to develop your eye. And that comes from your ability to visualize an image. What does that mean? To see it in your mind before you press the shutter. You don't have to sit there and contemplate it for an hour. That can happen in a split second. You notice, wow, look at these 2 convergent situations. There's a dog running into the frame, and that's going to be really cool. The dog's way over here, and as soon as it gets over here, it's going to be framed by those trees, and that's when I'm going to press the shutter. That's your power of visualization. I mean, I could talk endlessly about this, but remember, that's where it all starts. Then, and only then, do we go to the second phase, which is equipment. Now, you got to know your equipment. There's no doubt about it. And Bob Holmes says, don't let your camera get in the way of your photography. You've got to know what this camera does with light, how it sees. Every camera is different. And in a film camera, every film is different. You have to know how that works. And that comes from testing. That comes from a whole testing procedure where you check it out, you capture a photograph, you look at it on a screen, or as a negative, you look at the print and you can see what that camera sees. And again, it doesn't matter what camera you're using, my trusty iPhone, but you got to know your equipment. There's no doubt about it. But remember, this is the sequence. Then you capture. Capture means using your tools of composition. How do you compose that frame? And your tools of lighting. Natural lighting. So do I want a backlit subject? Do I want light on their face? Do I want shadows? All these things are part of capturing. And there's 83, there's probably more than that, but I stopped at 83 compositional tools that you can use. That's how you capture an image. And that's what makes the image. Usually that comes from your vision. You think, wow, I'm going to make this a big, wide landscape. That's how I'm going to capture this. Or I'm going to come in really, really tight. That's also your vision, and that's part of how you're capturing it. So once you've captured your image, then you go to the next phase, which is processing. Got to process every image. And I don't care, again, if it's coming off your iPhone. I use, a lot of times I'll just, honestly, I hit the little magic button in the iPhone and it does a pretty decent job. But I also use Lightroom Mobile, which is awesome. I process my images either in Photoshop or Lightroom, whatever processing platform you use that you're comfortable with, you got to process. That's also a new visualization because you may have thought, I don't know if this is going to be better as a black and white or a color image, but I'm going to decide that when I get back to the studio and I go, oh, that's definitely a black and white, or that's definitely a color. So there's your first choice right there. And you've got your processing tools. And then, of course, the final component is sharing your work with the world. And that's where the fulfillment comes in. And if you've got your books, you can make books like I have. You can make small books like Dan Milner talks about with Blurb. You can make exhibits. You can put them in a film. There's all sorts of ways to share. You notice I haven't even mentioned social media yet. And the most important thing about sharing is putting them on your wall. Make your living space, your home, your best environment for your images. You have your own art gallery in your home or your workspace. Use it. But what I recommend, don't just tack up any old photograph. Get them framed. Framing is really a key component to sharing. Get an appropriate frame. And if you use Bay Photo Lab, they'll frame them for you, which is really handy. Or I also use a custom framer and we sit down together and decide how we want that image to look and what kind of frame we want and what matting we want, all these choices. So that's the cycle of photography. It does decode and it unconfuses photography. So remember it. I'm actually in the middle of making a video about this right now, a webinar, which I want you guys to come to as soon as I get it done, that I talk about it in much greater depth. Okay. So that's my short lesson for today. You've heard it from me before. You'll hear it from me again. And the thing is, it really does unravel your photography. I was a mountaineer, and one of the things you had to be able to do was read a map. And I remember one time I was in Colorado. Sue knows what I'm talking about. In Colorado, we had these unbelievable storms in the middle of the afternoon, hail and intense storms, lightning, you name it. And I got lost. I had my tent set up near a lake, and I walked outside of the perimeter of the lake. And so all I could see was trees. I couldn't find my way back to the tent. And I panicked because I knew this storm was coming on, and I had about 10 minutes to make it back to my tent before this thing came pounding down. And at first I was freaking out, and I was going to do the wrong thing. I saw the river down there, and beyond the river, there was a highway, a road. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go down there. Well, that would be the stupidest thing. It would have taken me right down a steep cliff in the middle of a storm, which is not where you want to be. And all of a sudden I came to my senses, and I thought, I got a map here. Why don't I pull the map out? I found out where I was, oriented myself. Right over there is my tent. I couldn't see it because of all the trees, but I found my way back to the tent. I got in the tent, I zipped it up, and right then, boom, thunder, hail. I'm in that tent 1 second after this humongous storm came down, which is a life-threatening situation. So you don't want to lose sight of your roadmap. And your roadmap is those 5 steps of photography. If you get lost, you can figure out which one of those steps you need to work on. Do I need to, and the go-to thing you're being told all the time that's wrong, is you got to change your equipment. You got to get some new piece of equipment. You got to buy this new lens. You got to buy this new upgrade. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That's like going down the gully into the storm, because every time you buy that, hey, look, I like new stuff too. But every time you switch gear, you got a new learning curve, and that is probably not the part you're stuck on. I guess, I'm going to guess it's not. 99% of the time, it's not the part you're stuck on. So don't get into the gear trap. Please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. Like the video and please share it and leave your comments. I love hearing from you. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life.